Welcome to Turkish Trends, part of Ahval podcast series. My name is Nervana Mahmoud. Turkey and Greece are two neighbors and two rivals who disagree on so many issues. However, the foreign ministers of both countries have met on Monday, and it seems that they made some progress on repairing the ties between the two countries. To discuss that further, it's a pleasure to welcome Yannis Koutsomitis, a foreign European affairs analyst and voted by Politico Europe in 2019 as one of the most influential European journalists on Twitter. I agree because I followed him religiously over the last 10 years, and I'm planning to continue following him. Yannis, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Nervana. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to talk to you about these issues.
Thank you. I know that there is no shortage of olives in both Greece and country, but I didn't expect those olive branches and all the smiling in front of the camera between the two foreign ministers. Before we discuss and delve into the issues which divide the two countries, can you explain why these sudden happy smiles?
Yes. To give our viewers a holistic approach on how we've come to this, we should go back a few years. First of all, Greece had a new government in July 2019. Kyriakos Mitsotakis' center-right government came to power. And at that time, many analysts, and I think that in the government as well, and in the headquarters of the prime minister, they knew that the only thing that could endanger Greece's recovery was a crisis with Turkey. Right. Because we've been experiencing the aggression of Mr. Erdogan from 2018 at least. But I think this change of Mr. Erdogan towards especially Greece and Cyprus came after the failed coup in 2016, where we've seen a complete reversal of their approach towards Greece. So the Greek government did not plan to have a geopolitical and a security crisis, as well as having to fight with the pandemic and economic recovery as well, because our viewers must be aware that Greece has had suffered many years of austerity and bankruptcy in early last decade, and there was great need for people to recoup their income and their investments, and for business to flourish, because the new government of Mitsotakis came to power with a promise of economic prosperity and recovery. So let's say a prolonged conflict with Turkey is undermining the economic prospects of Greece. And although, this is my personal view, we cannot put the problems under the rug, the government now has prioritized this entente with Turkey in order to gain time to push the economy back on a positive track and back to normality for Greece again. So this is the rationale between the olive branches of the Greek government towards Turkey. There is another element as well, which is, let's say, the equilibrium of defense, the defense equilibrium in the Aegean. And Greece will be expecting in the next few months a new wing of French Rafale fighters. And also there is in the works a big agreement that will take place about frigates, Navy frigates, either with US industries or with French or some other constructor. So the Greek government wants to gain time for the economy to recover, and also for the equilibrium of the defense forces in the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean to find some new ground. So this is the Greek point of view. I think if I can translate Mr. Erdogan's intentions, which is quite science fiction, because I don't think there are many people in the world who can guess what Mr. Erdogan has in his mind. That would be let me break in this for a moment, would be a good science fiction film in the minds of Mr. Erdogan. Anyway, to get back to the subject, I think Mr. Erdogan is cornered,
Yes.
and until the end of well, during the Trump administration, we all know that he had, let's say, a discreet ally in Washington, because despite of all the, let's say, legislative proposals of Congress and Senate, etc., there was always his brother Donald Trump to veto and block any initiative to punish Turkey for its behavior.
Right.
I won't go into the behavior,
Sure.
because
Sure.
I think we all know what
Absolutely.
that behavior constitutes. So after the election of Joe Biden, I think Mr. Erdogan has realized that he does not have many allies left in order to continue playing this aggressive and cliff-hanging foreign policy stance in the region.
Right.
So also there is the deterioration of the monetary situation in Turkey, with the lira plunging into new lows.
Yes.
And question marks rising in investors. They're starting to feel uncomfortable about their investments in Turkey. So I think all these elements have made Mr. Erdogan trying to find some escape clause in trying to mend, let's say, ties with Greece, European Union, and some other countries as well, because I'm sure you are aware of how desperate they've been in trying to negotiate a new rapprochement with Cairo and Egypt.
Yes. Yes.
And also they tried to reapproach Israel as well before the new crisis with Hamas. And also they've been trying to avoid this sabotage and sabotage of Turkish products in Saudi Arabia, etc. So
yeah,
so
let me take me that. Sorry to but let me take you that to the conflicting issues between Greece and Turkey. They are huge. I am glad that they agreed on COVID passport, some economic agreement, which is the easy part. The difficult part is that there is so many issues which can it's been into in conflict mode since decades. Let me start with the East Med, because you mentioned Egypt, and the Turks have tried with the Egyptian. They sent a delegation to Cairo after 8 years of huge hostility. And they tried to persuade the Egyptian, and at least that's from their reporters and analysts, that to have a maritime deal between Turkey and Egypt. And I'm sure, obviously, you're aware that Greece and Egypt have a maritime deal. And I'm aware that there is a clause in that maritime deal that neither parties can forge another maritime deal without the agreement. Perhaps you will agree with me that that's one of the factors which pushed the Turks to change their mind toward Greece, because now Greece, surprise, surprise, and I'm delighted that they are the power broker here in the East Med. Nobody can do anything without you guys. Can you see Greece and Turkey agree on a maritime deal or no?
Well, I would say perhaps,
right.
And let me be more specific. I think the Egyptian government was very wise not to spoil the agreements that they have already done with Greece, but also with Cyprus and Israel, because what Turkey is offering Egypt is a detour of international law. They say, okay, let's forget about UNCLOS maritime law. Let's do a bilateral agreement, and the rest doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way, and especially the Egyptian government is very smart, and also there is. I'm aware that there is a very, let's say, wise bureaucracy within the Egyptian government that is regardless of Sisi government or Muslim Brotherhood or whoever, they are protecting the interests of Egypt. And the interest of Egypt is to abide by international law. And this is how they have conducted until now with Cyprus, with Greece, etc. So there wasn't much chance for Turkey to achieve anything there, especially since they can't drop their support for Muslim Brotherhood.
No.
Because the excuse to say, okay, we'll just tell them to go to another country, it's ridiculous. Okay, so we know what is in the essence of the AKP party in Turkey. It's part of the global Muslim Brotherhood alliance. Anyway, let's go back to the Greek-Turkish issue now. This element, which is the extent of the effect of the small island Kastelloris or Meis, what they call it the Turks, in the Eastern Mediterranean, should be part of an agreement, either bilateral or in The Hague or in the International Maritime Court in Hamburg. According to all the opinions of experts that I have seen, I think what could be an agreement would be something that would not, let's say, be satisfactory to either parties, because definitely the Kastelloris or Meis Island does not have 100% effect on a maritime zone in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also the Turkish point of view that this island does not have at all an effect on the Eastern on a maritime zone does not stand, because there are several decisions, rulings by the Hague court that does recognize that even small islands that are close to a huge mainland do have their own maritime zone. So an agreement would have to make huge concessions by both sides, which right now I think politically is very, very difficult in both countries. But I think one chance, and I think many times, you know, history is progressing faster than governments are guessing, because the COVID crisis, the pandemic, and the energy, the climate change may make all this exploitation futile and obsolete in the next years. So we've seen a ruling in the past week by the Dutch court that it's telling the Royal Dutch Company to abide by the net emissions targets in 2050. And also, I expect similar rulings to come also for Eni, the Italian gas company, and Total of France. So I think it's economically and business-wise, it would be, I think it won't work to make exploitations in Eastern Mediterranean. This is sad because Cyprus, Greece, and Israel have very much invested in this East Med pipeline. So we might not see an agreement or a compromise by Turkey and Greece, but we may see the developments and in the energy sector being so dramatic that an agreement wouldn't make sense anyway.
Right.
So the problem, the real problem for me is Aegean, because Aegean, it's about sovereignty. It's about the sovereign rights of 150 islets and rocks that Turkey is disputing from Greece since 1995, which is a real mess. Because even if Greece and Turkey agree to jointly go to The Hague, they would have to agree on who has the sovereign rights on these rocks and islets.
Right.
And so it's a difficult issue. There was an interview of Çavuşoğlu in a weekly newspaper last Sunday, Greek newspaper, who implied that, okay, we may agree to go to The Hague, but you need to agree to put all the issues in the same, let's say, application. That means also The Hague to make a ruling about the status of these islets and rocks, which for Greece is a very, very tough question. Me personally, I would do it, but it would be extremely unpopular in Greece. It would be like questioning the sovereignty of the country, because all these islets and rocks, they were not disputed until 1995 by Turkey. Suddenly, in 1995, Turkey found out that, oh, no, this is not Greek islands, this is there's ours, because the treaties didn't mention specifically all the little rocks and islands that were handed over from the Ottoman Empire to Greece. So if they were not mentioned in the treaties, they belong to the Ottoman Empire. We are the heir of the Ottoman Empire, so it belongs to Turkey. So it's a mess. I think it will continue the situation to be put under a rug, and both governments, or this government or next governments, because we know what the opposition in Turkey is feeling about this dispute as well. They don't have much different opinions from Mr. Erdogan and Mr. Bahçeli. I think it will be put under the rug, and we will continue as we have been continuing the last 25 years.
Amazing. And thank you for explaining that, because I remember in early 96, I was still obviously too novice, but I remember again an interview in an Egyptian television saying similar things, and it's amazing how all this time and things haven't changed. But go back to the East Med, there is Libya, which is a very important country into the equation. They sign a maritime deal which ignoring geography completely with Turkey, and the new government, the new interim government, seems to be, don't want to upset Turkey and don't want to change this maritime deal. However, they agreed to open a negotiation with Greece. How you see, do you see Greece, Egypt and Libya agreeing, at least on the western side of the maritime, on an agreement, or do you, and Turkey willing to go back or to retreat from that, or do you see another continuous rivalry or continue under the rug, as you like to say it?
I think very much will depend on if there will be elections in December in Libya, and right, who will win the elections. Yeah. Because it's a very difficult legal issue. As I've been speaking with many international law experts, there cannot be a bilateral Greece, Libya, Egypt agreement that can nullify or cancel the agreement between Erdogan and Sarraj, because international law says that only The Hague can cancel that agreement if Greece or Libya jointly with Greece go to The Hague and say, look, this agreement cannot stand because XYZ reasons. The International Treaty of Treaties of Vienna is describing under which circumstances an international agreement can be cancelled by the court in The Hague. So it would definitely need to have the consent of the new Libyan government. Of course, we know that the current tentative temporary Libyan government will not make such a move. So very much will depend on the next, on what happens next in the Libyan political spectrum, if the elections are held, and who will be winning those elections, and if there is a legal, let's say, settlement that would leave all parties happy. How can that be? Turkey needs to have some piece of the cake. I don't know what that be. Could be the international conference that Charles Michel of the EU and Erdogan have been talking about to make all these arrangements. I don't know, but it's a real mess.
Right. Moving to another part of the parcel is Cyprus. There was, and I made a podcast with the Cypriot opposition, a meeting between the Cyprus Greek and the Turkish Cyprus, and the Greek side, which is backed by Greece, want a federal bizonal state, United States, while Turkey insisted on a two-state solution, as if, which I cringe when I hear it, because it never worked in other parts of the Middle East. But do you see any progress on that side, particularly that most of the Cypriots don't support that two-state solution? It's only the part which is pro-Turkey, but despite the president, one is pro-Turkey, but I don't think that his solution is that popular.
Well, I definitely agree, and I think nobody's telling what they really think and what they really like, and they pretend to say what they really like. So we had a situation in previous years, like the referendum 2004, where the Greek Cypriots really didn't like to share power with the Turkish Cypriots, to be honest.
Mhm.
Uh, this year, and especially a few weeks before Geneva, the head of the biggest Greek Cypriot party came out and said, look, we cannot continue like that. We have to decide to share power in a federated state with the Turkish Cypriots. And I'm not aware if this opinion is a majority opinion in Greek Cyprus Republic
Mhm.
at all. But I think there is a wind of change of mind in the Greek Cypriot side, at least to go on a negotiating table and be open to share power, really share power with Turkish Cypriots. But I put a very question mark here in the equation. We know what happens now with the power sharing and decision-making process in the European Union. Can you
Exactly.
imagine? Can you imagine a European Council or a Foreign Affairs Council and having an issue about imposing sanctions on Turkey and the Greeks and the federated Cyprus government? The foreign minister would be a Turkish Cypriot. Would be he willing to vote for sanctioning Turkey in any part, or sanctioning Hamas, or sanctioning Iran, or anything? You know,
Yeah.
this is a very sensitive issues, because I don't think I think in Brussels they have realized what it does mean to have a rotating government in Cyprus, and for 2 years or 6 months to have a Turkish Cypriot foreign minister or Turkish Cypriot president. On the other hand, the confederation solution is total nonsense, because it's total nonsense because we've seen what is happening now in Northern Ireland. What
Yes.
is happening in Northern Ireland? It's stupid. You cannot have a part of the country which is regulated by a different trade or different regime that is not 100% under the European acquis. So confederation is bullshit if Cyprus Republic would remain in the European Union. And no Greek Cypriot would ever vote to have a federated or a confederation and the country to leave the European Union. This is out of the question. So that leaves us to only two solutions, in my mind. Complete division of the island, definitely division, and have the northern part be like a puppet state of Turkey,
Mhm.
or to be or the annexation that has been talking about on some cycles. And the other solution would be the federated, real federation, let's say like Switzerland
Mhm.
or Belgium, which carries a lot of liabilities and question marks, according to my views.
Right. Amazing. I'm glad you mentioned Europe because I was about to ask you about that, but you answered it nicely about all the pitfalls, which doesn't help the Cyprus agreement and doesn't help the conflict between Greece and Turkey as well, because Europe is not there, it's disunited Europe when it comes to Greece and Turkey in general, and a lot of other issues. Which bring me one last question. The Muslim minority in Greece, I mean, 24 hours, this is the magic of politics. 24 hours before the meeting between the two foreign ministers, there were a lot of exchange about whether they are Muslim minority of Greece or whether they are Turk who are, persecuted. And suddenly, at the press conference, they both sides were at pain to try to avoid the topic. How do you see that issue?
I think this is the most sensitive and most difficult issue in the Greek-Turkish relations. I think it's more serious than the Aegean dispute, because this is something that the Turkish, let's say, Islamist movement, Islamist ideas, they see as part of their international Salafist movement, etc. They've been trying for the last 10, 15 years to infiltrate the Muslim minority in Western Thrace with their Salafist and Islamist ideas and make them join the global Ummah, etc., etc., which is very, very dangerous to my knowledge, because in Western Thrace, Christians and Muslims have been living peacefully for over 100 years. The only place maybe on earth that Christians and Muslims have been living together with no riots, no killings, no major disruptions. And this is amazing. And Mr. Erdogan does not like that, because we know what the Salafist and the idea is to have, of course, the domination. They want domination in the area, and they don't like the way it is. And Greece, I think all Greek governments would be willing to somehow accept the minority to have their way of electing their muftis, but the machinery of Ankara and Mr. Erdogan and AKP are trying to infiltrate the way that the muftis will be elected in order to control the minority. Because in Thrace, there is not the religious, but there is the Islamic law that applies to the minority in terms of civil law and divorces and heritage and all stuff that concern their daily life. So can you imagine a Salafist and Islamist imposing Islamic law on a European state?
I don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Of course. So I think there are some issues that the Greek government can do because we have some sort of affirmative action for the Muslim citizens there, because they are allowed to go into colleges and universities without numerous clauses like the Christian citizens of Greece are. They are allowed to go into civil service or in the government with extra bonus points in the exams. So there is some affirmative action for the Muslim minority. But we need to be more, not say, to take care more of their welfare and their jobs and job creation. Because job creation, freedoms, and let's say prosperity is the best way to protect ourselves from extremism, whatever extremism. Right-wing, left-wing, Islamist extremism. I think this a rule of law and the wealth and economic prosperity is the best way to achieve that. So I think this is a very serious situation, and Mr. Çavuşoğlu did not want to anger the Greek government in rephrasing the same things about Turkish minority and our compatriots, etc. Because some people in the minority feel themselves as Turkish, but there are also people in the minority who are Muslims and they consider themselves Greeks. And there are also Pomaks, where Pomaks is a huge part of the minority, and Pomaks are not Turkish at all. Everybody, every ethnologist and historian knows that the Pomaks are not Turkish. And also there are Roma in the Muslim minority. So people who feel Turkish are part of that minority. So this is not a Turkish minority. It's a let's say multi-ethnic minority, Muslim multi-ethnic minority. But Mr. Erdogan and the AKP want to play this global ummah of Islamism and Salafism. And they played that in Bosnia, they played that in Kosovo, in Albania, and North Macedonia, and elsewhere as well. And they try to do that in Thrace. Okay, that won't go in Greece.
Yannis, thank you so much. I really appreciate the clarity on a very complex topic. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you all to all my viewers, and I hope to see you again in another episode of Turkey Trend. Thank you.